Today we're going to talk about sources of bias in sampling. So what can cause our sampling to be skewed? What can skew the data? What can create bias? And when do we just need to throw the data out because of the bias that has occurred? So the first type is sampling bias. And that's just when the way you sample tends to favor one group over another. And there's two types. The first is called convenient sampling, which we already talked about, and we already have a definition for. But let's say that I am I'm outside of the mall, or I'm outside of Nordstrom, and I want to ask, or I want to get an accurate average of the amount of money people spend on shoes per month. And would it be a smart idea to stand outside of Nordstrom and just ask the first 100 people that pass by? No. What's the issue with that?
You're right outside a shoe store, so obviously.
Yeah. So my average probably going to be a little what? Higher than normal, because I should have a neutral location and I need to randomly select people. So convenience sampling is not a good idea, especially in whatever location you're in. The second one is undercoverage, and virtually everything has undercoverage. It's really hard to alleviate this type of bias just because you're always going to leave some people out in some form or capacity. If my population is the entirety of the United States, then it's going to be really hard to try and include everyone in that, just because I don't have data for everybody. So I only have the resources that I have around me. So if something has undercoverage, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but just when you're creating a survey or something, trying to be aware of trying to include as many people in your population as possible, or give them a chance for it. The next kind, so this isn't necessarily through sampling, but the way people respond. So this is more of a non-sampling. The first type is non-response bias, and it's when individuals selected in the sample do not respond. So I'm going to let you write this down, and then I'll give you an example. So with non-response bias, it's basically if I sent anything out and I'm asking you to answer it, you may or may not answer it. And so I may or may not be getting accurate data. So for instance, if we sent out an email blast to every student and said, what are your opinions about Sage Dining? Rate Sage from 1 to 5. Who do you think is going to respond? People have nothing else to do. People that don't like it. People that are just have a very strong opinion about it. And the other people that could take or leave it, like they enjoy it fine, but they just are kind of apathetic about it. Are they going to respond? No, they've got other things to do. So my average rating for Sage is probably going to be what? Higher or lower? Lower than what it actually is. So what's a way that I could, so let's say we were still continuing with this survey. What's something I could do to try and get everyone's answers?
You could add it to that,
I could what?
We have to take.
Make it a grade. You could what?
You could add it to the survey we have to take.
Yeah.
The survey monkey.
And why do you have to take it? Like, how is it given or administered?
Like an all school survey, we able to take it at the same time.
Yeah. So basically making you take it is the only way you're going to get everybody's response. If I'm just sending an email out and saying, hey, answer this if you can, but there's no accountability, I'm not going to get very good results. So the people that do respond will be the people that really care. So they have strong opinions, positive or negative. And will they have the same opinion as those who don't respond? No, they won't, because they're very strong and adamant about whatever question is being posed. The next type, and I do not have this in your notes, so you're just going to need to write it underneath, I'm sorry, is called voluntary bias. And it is when the survey is available to all and then you choose to respond. Voluntary is basically open to everyone. So I like to relate it to, like, if you ever have given an Instagram poll or a Twitter poll, or you've ever called into like American Idol or something like that. Basically, I'm not saying, Avery, will you take this survey? I'm saying the entire public is able to take this survey and anybody can respond. So what kind of responses do you think I'll get for these kind of things? Like American Idol. Who votes on American Idol? Who actually takes the time to call in? People who watch it. Yep.
Family members who are like trying to support the people.
Exactly. People that have, again, strong opinions. So the only difference between, and I put this in all caps and bolded it, you can't have non-response and voluntary at the same time, because non-response means like you have been asked and you've been asked to take the survey and you choose not to answer. So I sent you an email and I said, Abby, please answer this survey about sage dining. I want your opinion. I want you to choose to take it. But then Abby doesn't respond to me. That's non-response. Voluntary is I just made a poll available to everyone in the hallway for people to answer about sage dining. But I didn't individually pick you out and choose you to answer. But anybody can answer, and you're choosing to respond. So no one asked you. No one asked you, but you respond. You're not getting a formal invitation to respond. It's open to the general public. And so the reason why you can't have them at the same time is because, one, you're being asked. The other, you're not being asked. So you're either asked to answer or you're not asked to answer. The next kind is called response bias, and there's two types. One is called like an interview error or misrepresented answers. So essentially, in a nutshell, like causing you to lie. And that depends on who is asking you the question. So I know it doesn't pertain to anybody in here, but I always pose the example of if a police officer asks you if you've done drugs in your face. They're saying, hey, have you ever done drugs?
Yes.
You're getting asked this question by a police officer. I'm not saying anyone's done drugs, but like if you had, you're scared to tell the truth because it's intimidating and something could happen. So the person that's asking me the question is making me lie in my answer because I'm scared of what could happen. Another example could be if I'm saying, did you study for this test? You're not, even if you didn't, you may not want to tell me the truth because you're scared I might judge you or I don't know, just things like that. So people that are asking, it's like the people that ask the question cause you to lie because of who they are. Yes?
It's like your English teacher asking if you like the book.
Exactly.
Oh, I do that all
You
the time.
don't want to tell them the truth. It's like if somebody asks you if you like their outfit and you really don't, but what are you gonna do?
Make me look fat.
Exactly.
Voice syndrome.
And then the second type is called wording of the question. So it's not necessarily who is asking it, but how it's being asked.
This looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah. So if I were like, oh, I just bought these shoes yesterday. They were on sale. They're my favorite in the whole world. I think they're so cute. Do you like them? It's like, what are you going to say to that? You have to answer yes, because I'm just going on and on and on about them.
I've had people say no, though.
And there's no bias for them.
So mean.
You're not friends then.
My example is when people are talking about politics, it's so easy to sway that. So I'm not going to insert a politician in there, but if I said, how dumb is this person when it comes to this topic, when it comes to abortion, foreign policy, like just the connotation of the word dumb is inserting in their brain, okay, this person doesn't like them, I need to bash them too, or I need to be on their side. So you really have to be neutral when it comes to when you're asking questions. So let's look at some examples and decide what type of bias they are. And then I have a little matching activity that we'll do, and then you guys can work on your homework. So the first one says a retail store manager wants to conduct a study regarding the shopping habits of his customers. He selects the first 60 customers who enter the store on a Saturday morning. Convenient sampling. Good.
Oh, this is kind of fun.
We have to explain more.
No.
Oh,
This class gets so hard,
Because the
doesn't it?
instructions.
Yeah.
yes. She says that.
Okay, B. An anti-gun advocate wants to estimate the percentage of people who favor stricter gun laws. He conducts a nationwide survey of 1,203 randomly selected adults 18 years old and older, and the interview asks the respondents, do you favor harsher penalties? Whoa, what just happened? It went away. Go back. There we go. Harsher penalties for individuals who sell guns illegally. What do we think? I could see response just because he's an anti-gun advocate.
But then he's
And then I
sells
also
guns
could see-
illegally.
It's a
Yeah.
survey of 1,000.
So I could see response because of the person's asking it, but if you don't necessarily know they're an anti-gun advocate, what about the way that the question's worded?
It's not. It's like worded so you like. Who's gonna say no?
Right.
Like, if
So
it's
then
one thing. Like if you're selling guns illegally, and he's anti-gun completely, so he's trying to get the poll to favor his version to look good.
Yeah, so what are some things in his question that are a little alarming, like maybe make you sway towards not wanting to?
It's
Sell
not a
guns
neutral
illegally.
question.
The
Right.
Word
word
illegal.
Illegally? What else?
Guns. Sell
Guns isn't a bad thing.
Like sell
Harsher.
guns.
Harsher, yeah. Just some of the language of how he's presenting it. So I would accept a response, and I would accept wording of the question. But I think wording of the question, just because we don't really know if the people answering the survey if he's asking them directly. He could have just sent out a survey. So you don't know who sent out the survey to answer the question. Also, you're not face to face with them, so I'm going to answer truthfully with that. But the wording of the question is what really gets me on this one.
So real quick, so the
So,
I think they just need
Are
like
we-
registered at the school.
yeah, are we asking, like, are the students, the 150 students getting asked, or is everybody able to answer the question and we're responding?
I think it's undercoverage
Yeah.
because it's only like students at one school versus
Mhm.
And it's only 150. It's
Mhm.
not like the whole.
students in general.
So it's definitely under coverage, I think, just because it's not really getting everybody, but also, so I'm asking 150 students a survey question, but do they have the potential to not respond?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm gonna say that it's under coverage, and I also think that it's non-response. And why is it not voluntary?
Because you can choose not to respond.
Right. And voluntary would be the whole school has a chance to answer, and the people that really care answer. But this is, I'm sending out a survey to 150 students. So those 150 get a survey physically, and then they could not respond to it. So that's non-response. Okay, D, Cold Stone Creamery is considering opening a new store. Before opening the store, the company would like to know the percentage of households that regularly visit. The market researcher obtains a list of households and selects 150 of them. He mails a questionnaire, and of the 150, 4 are returned.
Non-response.
Non-response, good.
I don't know.
That's sad.
How they create these.
Not really following on the whole
It means that I.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I was like,
Well,
only 4
Are you saying you
responded.
thought that she had a stupid question because I thought there were no stupid questions?
No, I didn't say that. I
There
never
are
verbalized
stupid
that.
questions. There are.
yes.
People who say
Okay, what about E? Looking like it might be the same thing.
Yeah.
E is also non-response.
That's so sad. At least we got one with the last one.
1,023 and 12 responded.